part 2 to this last episode. So there we were in the Sally Port. I'm a brand new sergeant with a brand new officer straight from the academy, going with a seasoned convict, right? Dude just came back from the bay, released from the SHU. Thank God nothing happened to the poor kid, right? Normal run, comes back, or at least I didn't hear anything, right? Expecting to hear on the radio, help! Oh, right? So, while this is happening, told you, I got friends in other places, right? I got friends everywhere. Centinela State Prison. They tell me, you are not going to believe this. We got the most. We got the most. What do you mean the most, bro? They got the most, right? That prison, that yard received the most leaders that I just told you about from the SHU onto that yard. I think there was 11. 11 of them, right? I want you to imagine the mindset of a correctional staff member. I want you to get into the mind. At that time, I was at Donovan. I'm talking to my friends from Centinela like, oh my God, you got 11? Like, what is it like, man? What do they look like? What are they doing? Oh, man. They're telling me like what they see, right? Oh, they got an entourage. Well, what's an entourage, right? I kind of didn't know what an entourage was. I mean, I don't even go clubbing anymore, really. So, like, yeah, entourage of, like, bodyguards, right? Bodyguards, so to say. Like, really, dude? Like, this is me talking to my friends, right, in other prisons. Yeah, dude, it's like, man. Right? So, kind of what you would expect. Well, you would never expect, like, 11 to touch down at one place, right? I don't know who decided to do that, right? Whether it's a good or a bad idea, I just don't know. Usually, when you want to enact a plan, right, you kind of ease into something. Sacramento just said, hell no, open the floodgates, let's just see what happens, right? Was there anything major that transpired? Nothing major that I know of, right? Nothing major that I know of. It was more of a learning curve, more of something new to everybody, and I do mean everybody involved in that whole encounter, in that whole situation. So Hector, what about Donovan? What about Donovan? Did any of those guys land there? Yes, yeah. Without getting into race of who is who, what is what, right? There was an individual that touched down. Did I ever have a conversation with that individual that was at Donovan that was made, right? A made member? No. Well, why not, Hector? I did an episode on this, right? There was a captain on that yard that was over familiar with that member, right? Just weird stuff, man. Having one-on-one conversations in the office, like just closed door conversations, just weird stuff that is not normal for a prison setting, right? So I didn't need to feel the need to talk to that individual, right? At that point, I was a lieutenant, right? Not saying that my rank meant anything, because I never flaunted my rank, nor did I really pay any attention to it. But at that point, I was a lieutenant. I didn't have a need to talk to this individual, right? He was already talking to the captain. Surely didn't need to talk to me. That's for sure, right? Well, it didn't take long for that individual to fall off the top of the mountain to the bottom of the mountain. Boom. Both the captain and them just hugged it out and just jumped off the mountain, right? Just no parachute. Right? And in the process, there were these two poor cops climbing the mountain. They almost got him killed. It was a horrible incident that transpired in August of like 2020 at RJD. Google it. So I didn't talk to that dude, right? At all. Not one word. I didn't want to, didn't need to, didn't want it, didn't involve me, not one way, bit, or any other which way, right? Did anybody else touch down there? As a matter of fact, yes, absolutely, 100%. How was that conversation, Hector? Well, that conversation was very professional, right? That conversation was very straightforward, right? That conversation was very matter of fact, very blunt, very understandable between two men. Between two men. I think that's what the world lacks these days, man. Men talking like men, right? Straight up. Especially, wow, can it get any more volatile? Can it get any more, I'm not going to say dangerous, because danger is everywhere, right? But can it get any more important? If talks needed to be had, yeah, 100%, that's it right there. So now, that person being in their position, me being in my position, conversations were definitely needed. Because, man, you're going to have mistakes happen on both sides of the house. Green, blue, right? It's like somebody has to change these kids' diapers, man, on both sides of the house, right? Like, mistakes are going to get made. People, whether on purpose or on accident, right? It's prison. And this is another good topic, because I'm thinking, like, with all the craziness in California state prisons and all the changes, Hector, you talk about lames, you talk about solid dudes, you're talking about made dudes, you're talking about buffoons, you're talking about lieutenants. Who is actually holding the line? Right? Who's holding the line? Who is keeping everything in check? Everything on the up and up? Well, the ones keeping it on the up and up are the very, very, very few individuals that know what time it is on both sides of the house, green and blue. Guys on both sides of the house that have been through wars, battles, and have surpassed that and understand that there is better options, right? The violence is usually the last resort. And I could say that, right? But I'll tell you what, right now, man, that is taxing. That is taxing as far as draining. I'm actually glad we're having this conversation. That is draining for the very few solid dudes, man, that like, yeah, I said it, solid. The very few solid dudes that have to hold it together, right? For the sake of freaking safety, man. For the sake of safety. Imagine that. Imagine that you have a small few and Sacramento is going after those small few on both sides of the house, right? I'm keeping it real. It's unbiased. It's been a minute since I've talked on a subject like this, but it was due, right? We were due. That's why prison sucks now. Now, I'm not going to say it never did suck, but the very few are trying to keep the circus from progressing, man. It's awful. It's awful, right? So that's what those conversations were had, man. A lot of like, hey, dude, like, I'm freaking like, hey, man, I know you guys are getting tired that you guys don't have program, right? But everybody's calling out sick, man. Right now it's COVID. Everybody's calling out sick. Right now we have this Warden Pollard. He's a freaking dictator from hell. Nobody wants to be here, so they're calling out so they don't get in trouble. These are conversations that are being had to keep the peace, right? Like, straight up. I'm telling you, it takes dialogue. It takes communication, right? And that's, I mean, you could probably go back to old wars and eventually they're going to get quelled by two individuals talking, right? That's how things work. Because the fighting has already transpired throughout the years. So, was it all bad, Hector? Was it all bad? Was it a nightmare? Was it a bad decision to let them out? Did you see any changes? keep it real with you guys, man. The changes that I saw, told you, violence was already transpiring before. Violence is still transpiring, right? Prison is prison. Money has to get made. People got to get removed, right? Not my rules. I didn't make those rules up. We're just there to clean up the mess, so to say. And or stop the violence, of course, right? Preservation of life. But I'll give you my honest opinion, man. Like, they actually did say what they were going to do. Keep the peace amongst the races. And that's something that I saw. That's something that I saw change, right? It's not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing, man. That is not a bad thing, right? It's Sacramento. And this is the reason why I left too, man. This is something that I was watching. Like, look at what they're creating, man. A monster, right? A monster. Sacramento, guys, just to be clear. With that, the message for today is A, do your homework on everything you do. B, document everything you do to cover your own ass, right? If you're being asked to do something dumb from up above. C is communication, right? Don't get it misconstrued, right? If you're getting punched in the face, there is no time for communication. That's kind of common sense. However, I know how far things have gone in the department. I had to clarify that. With that, keep pushing forward.